If you're having paranormal issues, contact us at mwghosthunters.com. From the files of the Midwest Ghost Hunters.
All right, Midwest Ghost Hunters site investigation, recorder 1.
Oh, Dustin, right there. Something just moved behind you.
Yes, it did.
What the was that?
What happened?
Something touched my ear, man.
What's that?
This is Dark Matter with Midwest Ghost Hunters.
One of the things I like to do is go through some of our older podcasts. You know, John and I were in radio. That's kind of what you do when you're in radio. You listen to your own shows back and you see what works and what doesn't work. So I like to listen through some of the old ones. Some of them because they're funny as hell, like the Mars Hill. It's one of my favorite ones to listen to. But then sometimes we get into a habit of saying, hey, you know, we'll mention something on a podcast and say, we should do a whole podcast about that. And then we never mention it again. And I caught one of those. We were talking about, we talked about those sounds in the sky. I think they're called skyquakes. But Dustin was the one who actually brought it up, talking about
Are this the horns?
Yeah, the horns, the trumpets that come from the sky. So we mentioned on a podcast a little bit about those kind of in passing, and we talked about, maybe doing an entire podcast about those. I don't know that we can do an entire podcast about them, but we can play some examples of them. And then the other thing I was thinking we might do, and one of the other podcasts I listened to, I can't remember which one it was, one of the more recent ones, when Dustin was talking about the noise he heard near his house.
Have you heard this since then?
No, heard it once. That's it. Yep.
And then me and John talked about, the noise that we used to hear years ago growing up at his house. So we have a few examples of clips that people have recorded of cryptids that are native to this area. Now, some of these I've never heard of. The only cryptid native to this area that I have heard of that I can think of is the Ozark Howler. And I feel like I've only learned about that recently. I don't remember growing up hearing about Ozark Howler.
No, you never heard about anything. And especially down where you guys particularly grew up, not far from where I grew up. You go down into some of those hills and valleys and stuff like that. Any sort of a sound hits that, bounces around, it changes. I mean, it could morph into anything.
Well, and that's one of the things I was looking at last night is I was looking through trying to find audio recordings, and I listened to audio recordings of every damn animal in this area. I feel like I listened to a red fox. I even listened to a razorback hog, a pig. All these different things that they blamed, these sounds people have recorded, all these different animals they've said that these could be. I've listened to those. I heard nothing that sounded like what we heard. Nothing.
The big problem that I think you're always going to have in trying to figure this out is go to any outdoor stuff that we've ever done, and when that noise starts traveling around the room, even here at the castle, if things sound different on the big master version that everybody hears than they sound on the individual, and this is in a small room, let alone you get into some valleys and stuff like that, and the sound bounces off those bluffs and then is absorbed by some trees, which will change it and morph it around. So I think that's going to make it real hard to figure out what that is.
Yeah, it's almost impossible. I just remember feeling like, I hear coyotes all the time out there, dying coyotes, little coyote pups.
Right.
That make some pretty creepy noises, but I've always heard them my whole life, so I don't have a reaction to it.
Marvin's flipping out about something out there.
But
Marvin
this
is
thing
the
that I
castle
heard gave me a visceral fight or flight. That response you get,
right?
I felt like I needed to go either get a weapon or get away from it, and I don't feel like that when it's like a coyote or a white owl. Or
that was one of the other things I looked at. Is I listened to red fox sounds. I listened to the razorback pig sounds. I can't even remember what all I pulled out. There were different owls I listened to, but there was another cryptid that was brought up. I don't even know how to say it. That's apparently native to southern Missouri and northern Arkansas. It's spelled Gowrow. Is that Gowrow?
I guess so.
What the hell is that? I don't know.
I've never heard of that.
It's supposed to be like a lizard-like creature found in southern Missouri and Arkansas. They're saying this as though it's fact. They're saying this as though this is like an Audubon Society, The Gowrow is a giant lizard-like creature found in Arkansas and southern Missouri, described as a giant 20-foot lizard with two large tusks.
20 feet?
That's a long lizard. Where the hell would that live that you wouldn't, run into a skeleton or something? Here we go. I should have kept reading. It's said to live in a cave called the Devil's Hole, where it can be heard growling and hissing. Some people believe the Gowrow is an alligator.
A 20-foot long alligator in southern Missouri.
Well, now I can say this much. I know every year they pull an average of 5 or 6 gators out of the freshwater lakes we have here.
Really?
Because they've gotten warmer over the decades. So
you also have people that are dumb.
And I also remember years ago, the first time I ever saw an armadillo, I was in like 4th grade. I'd never seen an armadillo in my life. And I saw an armadillo. I was like, what is, I thought it was a dinosaur. That was when, but then now you see them all the time.
Yeah.
Armadillos are everywhere. But they only migrated this far north in like 1985 or 6. Up before that point, we didn't have any. And all the experts said, well, after the armadillos migrate, the next thing that come are the alligators. But if you look it up, you can see that out of Stockton Lake and Table Rock Lake, some of the local lakes here in southwest Missouri, they pull, I think the average is 5 to 6 alligators out every year.
Wow.
Part of that, too, is the fact that people are stupid and they'll get a pet alligator because they think it's neat. Yeah. And then, when the alligator gets so big, they're like, oh, well, I'll do the morally right thing, and that's to let him go down at the lake.
Yeah, you don't want to put a bullet in him, so you let him go in the lake. Yeah.
So
Well, I tell you, I'm curious because I was thinking about this once. I wonder how many, because you know how many cryptids there are. Every area has like multiple dozens, and you wonder how many of those are just exotic pets.
Yeah,
that were.
Yeah, I mean, really, and especially down where you live, you get into the hollers and the valleys, and the sound will bounce and then it'll get absorbed by trees. I mean, it really will. It will change it.
You're not going to believe the story that I'm about to tell, but I swear it is 100% true. I was here in Springfield, Missouri, years ago, and I was driving at Walnut and National. I was driving a Walnut and National, and there were cars stopped ahead of me, and it was at night, and I stopped along with the rest of them. I thought we were letting, people jaywalk there all the time. They just cross over the street. But it was not a person crossing the street. What happened?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did. It was a...
Yeah, there was something behind. That might have been you. Maybe. I don't.
He's not close enough to the mic.
It was like
it wasn't me because I wasn't up at the mic.
Well, I don't have COPD.
Not yet. I mean, it's coming, but...
That's a few years after.
Listen to this stupid story that I'm about to finish. I'm driving a Walnut National, and people are stopped. I thought they were letting an old person or something cross the street. They weren't letting a person cross the street. They were letting a fucking chimpanzee in a diaper cross the street. A chimpanzee in a diaper was crossing Walnut Street
by himself.
All by himself.
Oh, I believe that. People get all sorts of exotic pets.
Going?
I don't know. I didn't ask. But here's the funny thing. It wasn't until a long time later that I realized, not 20 feet up from where the chimpanzee was crossing the road, there's Walnut Street's all historic houses. And at the very end, you'll see it if you drive by Walnut and National. At the very end, there's a house there, and it's got a big sign out front that I'd never noticed. Exotic pets. And chimpanzees is one of the pets listed.
Are they just allowed to like wander? Like, was it jaywalking?
No. He had escaped. Apparently,
was it jaywalking, or was it on the?
No. He was jaywalking.
Okay, because that would have been really impressive if he pressed the button and waited.
No. He was making a break for it. So that was. I thought I was having a hallucination or something when I first saw a monkey.
You should have pulled up next to him and opened the door and said, "Get in."
But if you look at that corner, that sign is still there. Now, this place, I guess, specializes in bringing in, like, if you go to them and say, "Hey, I would like a chimpanzee," they'll find one for you.
Is this the same famous pet store in Springfield that did the
not the Cobras.
The Cobra scare?
No,
okay,
no, that was an actual pet store. This is what looks like a house that's been turned into a business where they import exotic pets.
Now, did you see a semi parked out in front of this thing that was red and white?
What is that?
BJ and the Bear.
Oh.
Jesus, I was wondering where it was going.
I was going to say, how does the $6 million man have anything to do?
This is BJ and the Bear, man. Come on. He's B.J. McKay and his best friend Bear.
Here's the thing, though. Like that, okay.
Now,
seeing a chimpanzee in Springfield, Missouri is very strange. If it loses the diaper, right?
Yep.
Follow me here. If it loses the diaper and then goes out into the woods somewhere, there's your skunk ape.
Yes, that's where I was driving with this. And I swear, I would say that chimpanzee spotting happened, it's so stupid to even say, probably in, 2002. Somewhere in there, long time ago. But I'll be damned if there wasn't a chimpanzee running across a damn historic district, fairly busy road. And the only point I was making there is this Gowrow, or whatever the hell that is. I've never heard of it. Could be, who knows what. I mean, we were talking about, people get exotic pets and then, release them into the wild. Maybe so. I didn't know where you were headed with if he wasn't wearing the diaper thing.
Yeah,
Dustin.
I was going somewhere with that.
I thought you were going to make like a chimpanzee wiener joke.
Nope, not yet.
It's coming. I've got some sounds. Oh, it does talk about the Ozark Howler here, too. Large cat-like cryptid with dark brown and black fur and long whiskers, sharp teeth, whatever. Its cry sounds like a cougar scream mixed with the sound of a wolf's howl and the call of a deer mixed together. I don't know. I don't know what John and I heard or what you heard. I've got a sound here that we can play. It's one of those scary sounds that were, captured out in the woods. Dustin, we can at least see if I've already listened to this. It doesn't sound like what me and John heard, but we can see if it sounds like anything like what you heard. Let me go ahead and just play it here. I think I've got it in the right spot. Anything like that?
What is that?
They don't know. They don't know what that is. That's not a clip. That's not a sound effect. Or not a sound effect. That's not an audio clip of like an actual animal that's known.
Really funny, because that's like as close as I could have possibly have expected.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's something very similar.
They don't know what it is.
Like higher pitched, maybe like a more shrill sound. But
so that was a sound that was provided to us. It's what it is. Nobody knows what that is. When I say nobody knows, I mean just they didn't know what it was when they sent it to us. So I don't know what that would be. That's not what me and John heard at all.
No. What we sounded like was kind of a cross between like a bird and like a panther or something like that.
And supposedly that's what the Ozark Howler is supposed to sound like.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's possible that maybe we did know and hear about the Ozark Howler and we experienced it firsthand.
Well, maybe. I mean, hell, I don't know. I mean, I was just reading the description of the sounds. I'm trying to find a recording of one that's royalty free.
My dad was a veterinarian and he would listen to that thing and he said he had no idea what animal it was.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly didn't because we were kids, but I know it was scary because we heard it quite a bit, and I've never been able to find anything that sounds like that did. I wanted to pull up the sound. I wanted to try to make sure I find royalty-free things that we can play, and it's not as easy as one might think. But I wanted to play the sound of a screech owl, but I can't seem to find one at the moment, but I'll keep looking around. An owl might be the closest thing, they can sound pretty damn scary out in the woods. But anyway, I don't know. I know I spent last night listening to probably 20 different animal sounds. Red fox, there were different kinds of wolves. I listened to the razorback pig just in case one of those come up here. I listened to deer sounds, rabbits make sounds. I didn't hear anything that sounded anything like what we heard. I didn't hear what you heard.
Did you listen to the rabbit, like the bunny death call?
I don't know what that is. I guess I've heard you guys mention that, but I've never heard that.
It sounds like a woman being murdered.
Yeah, it does. Impersonate it real quick.
I can't.
You can.
No, I'm not going to do that.
I could give you a pretty good.
Do it.
No, I don't want to scare people.
I know there are coyotes that can sound like women screaming, but I spent a lot of time last night listening to animals, trying to find anything that sounded similar to what me and John heard. I couldn't find anything. I don't know. Maybe it was the Ozark Howler. Hell, I don't know. That's like I said, that's something I never even heard of. One of the other things we were going to talk about today. This is episode 99, by the way, right?
Yes. Our 99th episode.
I mean, technically, aren't we over that?
Oh, we're way over
because of the early episodes.
Because we did.
But 99 from here.
We did the other podcast from the other place and from the radio station. We did a bunch there.
So 99 from Pythian.
And I remember when we did the first one at the radio station. I remember when we did the first one thinking, how are we going to come up with something to do next week?
Yeah.
And that was like 150.
We were out of ideas after episode 1.
That was like 150 of these ago. But yeah, this is episode 99 from here at Pythian Castle.
Here at the castle.
So that's pretty cool. That's a bunch. Damn. Maybe for the 100th next week, we might pull up some of our Pythian Castle EVPs.
Yeah, do a best of Pythian.
Play a few of those. But anyway, the other thing we were going to talk about today on episode 99 is on another podcast I listened to a couple of weeks ago, or within the past couple of weeks, we talked about the sounds from the sky. Hunter was here. Hunter's not here today, but Hunter was here that day. He was talking about one, he had never heard of this, but it's these sounds from the sky, and I've come to learn that these are called skyquakes, apparently. They're called skyquakes by people, not by scientists. I don't think science has determined exactly what these are.
There's a another word for them. It's like earth.
I'd never heard the term skyquake until the past couple of days when I was looking into these.
Because that's one of the theories of what these things could be. Some of them have been debunked. Because, of course, like...
Oh, there could...
all it takes is one or two legitimate ones, and then there's dozens of copycats that are debunked. And
one that was debunked as there was a factory.
Yeah, a lot. Okay, here's the possibilities. Industrial. The problem with that is some of them have been heard in the middle of nowhere. Like where there's nothing around. The other one is like tectonic, like actual like activity underneath the Earth's crust that's making this strange noise. You know, bouncing, like you said, sound waves bounce off things. Maybe it's being reflected back up to the atmosphere, then bouncing off the atmosphere, coming back down. And
I've heard two different kinds of these. I've heard the kind that sound very... I think I described it as, remember in the movie Titanic when the ship sank, that metal...
Yeah.
I've heard that metal-y sounding ones, but then I've heard others that are more interesting to me that sound like a brass instrument.
Yeah, there are some that sounds like, or like harps. What are those called? Cerulean harps or something? It sounds really similar to like old school, like Roman harps and stuff.
Well, there's a Wikipedia entry on skyquakes. There's a list of hypotheses for what could cause them. If you want me to list them, industrial.
I didn't see that.
Coronal mass ejections.
That's stupid because the sun is fake. Keep going.
It's projected.
There is no sun.
You can't look at it. Meteors entering the atmosphere, causing sonic booms. Gas.
Explosion? Or what?
Do you want to elaborate on gas? What is a sentence after it?
Just gas.
Gas.
Escaping vents in the Earth's
There
surface.
you go. Okay.
You know, when you're fueling up and...
Yeah, just gas.
Biogas from decaying vegetation trapped beneath lakes.
Okay, that's swamp gas. And that does... Did you hear that? Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
That's what we heard earlier.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Explosive releases of less volatile gases generated as limestone decays in underwater caves.
Okay.
Military aircraft, shallow earthquakes, underwater cave collapses.
And air being pushed to the surface.
That's called an earthqueef.
Underwater caves collapsing and air being pushed to the surface.
15 minutes later.
But here's another oddity. I know it's going to sound weird since just a few minutes ago I told a story about a chimpanzee in a diaper. Where my old house was near the, it's no longer active now, but near the rock quarry here in Springfield. And when I first lived there, I didn't realize it was still an active rock quarry because from the road you can't really see anything. But apparently it was. And when they would blast over there, it would make some weird sounds. The house would shake, and then it would be followed 3, 4, 5 seconds later by this very weird sound. And they blasted several times a week. I remember the cat, when it first happened, was all freaked out. Well, I was too. I was ready to run outside. I thought an earthquake was happening. But that kind of stuff can manifest into some weird auditory sounds.
A good possibility is atmospheric ducting.
Atmospheric what?
Atmospheric ducting, which I didn't know what that was, but it says it's where distant thunder or other loud sounds are propagated across long distances due to travel through distinct atmospheric layers.
That makes sense.
With sound, there is absolutely no telling. There's no telling.
Yeah, and one of the things with these trumpets in the sky thing,
like the weird booms, because that's the thing too. It sounds like thunder, but it's a clear day.
Okay, so
like some of that can be explained pretty easily. But when you're hearing like a harp or something being played,
a lot of those too that you'll see on YouTube, where it's like strange noises from the sky, 2012 gone wrong. A lot of that's just fake.
Well,
I
that's
know.
what we said. Yeah,
people will open up GarageBand and play a trumpet and put some reverb on it because it's a 100%. Creepy video.
Yeah, but there's some that haven't been debunked,
which is the case with pretty much anything. There's ghosts, UFOs, you name it. But these sounds have been caught, and this is going to apply to cryptids and ghosts and everything too. But these sounds have been caught, everywhere in every country. I've got an example of one I've looked through, and I believe this one is free and clear to play. I'm going to go ahead and play this one. Now, this is just a quick example of the trumpet sounds we're talking about. And let me make sure this is queued up here. That's pretty fucking loud.
Yeah,
that's War of the Worlds.
Yeah. And that's an example. I mean, I've heard there's this video. I'd never even actually seen this one, but then there's a bunch of others.
I'm curious if you've heard or if you've watched the one, because like you said, there are a lot of these, and I went down the rabbit hole of these a couple years back. But there was one where this hunter was like in the middle of Alaska, literally middle of nowhere, like Alaska wilderness, like where you could get eaten by a bear or a wolf, right? Like no one around,
right?
And he's hearing just the strangest shit coming from the sky, and he records it and he puts it online, and nobody could figure out what this could be because he's not around any industrial zones.
Right. And, for me, the ones that are more interesting, I mean, I think what they're calling skyquakes as I read it are more of the booming, thundery sounds.
Yeah.
And I can see that being easily explained by atmospherics. But these other trumpet sounds, I can't imagine. Was that what he heard when he was out in the middle of Alaska?
It was kind of like that, but it was not as like bassy. And it was just more like almost like a harp.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard those kind too.
Okay, you say there's Alaska, right? He was in Alaska?
Yeah.
He was like in the Alaskan wilderness.
Okay, so another explanation for some of these sounds is possible resonance from solar and or earth magnetic activity, which it can induce noises. So if you're in Alaska, that's the Aurora Borealis.
I mean,
you can see that in Alaska.
The Northern Lights make noise. People don't realize that, but they do. Like they make atmospheric noise. Like you can hear the Northern Lights and stuff.
Magnetic fields and charged particles can do some weird stuff.
But if they can play like a harp, sounds like a symphony music like piece, it's just weird. If you're out in the middle of nowhere and you hear
See, I don't know how you would ever
what sounds like Gabriel sounding the trumpets from above you. Like that'd be terrifying.
I don't know how you could ever fully debunk that either.
I don't know either. I mean,
yeah, I don't know how you could ever say, yeah, that's what this is, or that's what this isn't, you know?
Whenever I was looking into these last night, I found this Reddit article, and that's what I was just quickly trying to find real quick, but I didn't find it, about a guy who, and I can't even remember what state he was in, but I mean, you guys can probably find it pretty quickly. I was looking for unexplained sounds in the Ozarks, I think is what I was looking for, and I brought up a Reddit article about a guy who was in the woods. I don't remember if he was hunting, fishing, camping, he was doing something like that, and he heard, remember the story I told about me and my mom fishing, and we heard those monk chanting sounds?
Yeah.
This guy heard that too. This guy heard the same thing. And and everybody, who responded was explaining it away as, oh, you were hearing a distant kegger or you were hearing, whatever. But I thought I'd save that but I didn't. And I will have to find that again because I'm curious, number one, where he was when he heard that. And I was going to read that again, and I was going to read it on here today, but I guess I didn't save where the hell I was. I could have swore I did, but I can't find it. But anyway, I will locate it at some point. But he heard exactly similar to what I was talking about that me and my mom heard that out in the middle of the woods that time, which has nothing to do with these skyquake sounds. We can't sit here and I can't even attempt to debunk these because I've never heard them.
There's a list of unexplained sounds on Wikipedia. Following is a list of unidentified or formerly unidentified sounds. All of the sound files in this article have been sped up. The following unidentified sounds have been detected by the U.S. NOAA using its Equatorial Pacific Ocean Autonomous
underwater
Hydrophone Array.
I've seen this exact article before. A lot of these underwater sounds were detected by microphones that were there to detect submarines, which are notoriously quiet. They have to be. And some of these are so loud, like the microphone set up in the middle of the Pacific will catch it from originating in the Atlantic. I think you should play like if you got the bloop or the upsweep. Both of those are good.
So upsweep, what exactly are we talking about here?
Read the thing.
The upsweep is an unidentified sound detected on American NOAA's Equatorial Autonomous Hydrophone Array. So a bunch of underwater microphones the Navy has placed around all over the place.
So this is a sound that we created?
No, we don't know what this is.
They captured it.
Yeah, and there's not an animal that's capable of doing this.
The sound appears to be seasonal, generally reaching peaks in spring and autumn, but it is unclear whether it is due to changes in the source or seasonal changes in the propagation environment.
Let me go ahead and play it here.
It can be roughly located between New Zealand and South America. It's worth noting they've sped that up by multiple factors.
Yeah. 20 times the original speed.
So it's really just a low rumble.
Sounds like the red alert on Star Trek.
It does kind of.
Yeah, it's very creepy.
I watched a YouTube video of a guy, the one I was sending you, the Y-Files guy, which is a really good YouTube, by the way. Like, we're not affiliated with them in any way, but they are very good. He's awesome. They slowed that back down to its original, and it's even more terrifying.
A lot of people don't know this, but water travels through water
Water
really
travels through water.
No, what'd I say?
Water travels through water.
Is that what I said?
I think I knew that.
Is that what I said?
Yeah. I've never seen just one water.
I don't remember saying that.
You did.
What did you mean to say?
Sound travels through water.
Sound travels through
Sound
water.
travels through water really, really well. Good example that a lot of people have heard, the Titan implosion. If you go back and listen to the sound, I just find it interesting. But if you go back and listen to the sound that the Navy released, you hear the initial pop, right, of the implosion, but then you hear several echoes pop.
What is a Titan? What pop?
That's that
sub.
submersible.
Oh, that little mini sub thing.
The little, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So when it imploded, it made a loud pop, right? Followed by several echoes. And the echoes you hear are the sound bouncing off the ocean floor back to the microphone, back to the ocean floor. Like it travels really well underwater.
Yeah, water's a good conductor. I was just looking through these. A lot of these were captured by NOAA, you know, the weather. This one is the whistle. Did you listen to that one, Ty?
I've heard the whistle before, yeah.
So it sounds like a haunted house, windy night type thing.
Or the Enterprise floating through space.
Sounds like 10 forward.
Yeah.
So there's a lot, man. There's a bunch. I could never play them all. The one we just played, the whistle, sounds similar. They said to volcanogenic sounds that were recorded near the Mariana Trench.
I once, on one of my documentaries, which I can't quote which one, but talking about this kind of thing, is that like they catch these it's kind of like open secret stuff, like with UFOs pilots. They're like, oh no, they're everywhere up there. We see them all the time. Like a lot of people capture if you're on the submarine doing what do you do? Put the headphones on the submarine, you listen. What's it called? It's
sonar? Escaping
me. Yeah, like sonar stuff. Mm-hmm. If you're like listening, right? They hear sounds like this all the time.
Yeah.
Like these just strange underwater sounds that we don't know of any animal that can produce a sound that could be heard from the Pacific if it originated in the Atlantic. Like nothing's that powerful that could do that.
So the blue.
But I like the idea of it being like underwater, like UFO stuff.
Right.
The blue that we mentioned earlier, that has been explained. An ice quake.
I did not know that. Like the last I heard, the bloop was still unexplained.
I was just looking here, speaking of sounds and unexplained ones. Apparently in 2019, they caught, I can't play this audio, but they caught sounds in Loch Ness.
Interesting. Yeah.
You immediately disengaged.
It's not that I'm disengaged. It's just like
I'm disengaged.
The whole.
That's why I brought it up.
The whole Loch Ness thing, like that. There's just a big history of people just faking stuff.
Oh, yeah. I know. The most famous Loch Ness photo in history was revealed to be fake.
Yeah,
you know,
it was a little homemade submarine, like a literal toy that they threw into the lake. And
it had ripples instead of waves around it. Anyway, I thought I'd throw in Nessie just for the hell of it.
With Nessie, though, why couldn't they just come in and just do a scan of the whole area?
They did a full sweep.
For months.
Okay, so if you've done a whole scan of that, then it's over.
Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, they actually found it was an animal of some kind, but it was just an animal of some kind, and like a lot of people have taken the picture that they took of this thing. I don't remember if it was like an X-ray. Is that Marvin mowing now? Jesus, Marvin! Come on. Well, and they saw what they wanted to see in this picture. They saw what they wanted to see.
Well, yeah.
It was pareidolia.
I knew whenever they did the full sweep of Loch Ness, they were going to find some anomaly.
Like, there was this thing that looked roughly like a mass, like a body mass. But then this was so funny. I wish I could find the picture and show it to you. They just oh, yeah, here's the fin.
Yeah.
And they just drew this
fin. They
fin.
started drawing it in, yeah.
And, I don't see that.
I remember that picture pretty well. I mean, once they've drawn it in, you see a fin.
Yeah. That's the problem.
They've done a full sweep, a full depth sweep of Loch Ness from one end to the other. It took a long time.
It's like the ghost pictures. They have a red circle, and they're like, look real close in that red circle.
Right.
And see a face.
Oh, the faces. People see faces in fires.
There's a face in the sand. It's Loch Ness.
They've seen faces in the smoke from 9/11.
We see that with things that get sent to us on a regular basis. People say, "Look at this."
Yeah.
Look at this reflection here. You can see a form, and then after they draw it, you could at least make out what they're saying. I'm not saying that that's really what it is, but I can at least see what they're seeing.
It's the same thing as humans have been doing this since we created fire, like with star constellations.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Well, and that's one of the things I hate about places when we go like Mars Hill. When I look back at pictures of Mars Hill, I can make myself think I see shit in that.
I don't know. That's why I don't like pictures as evidence. I really don't.
I don't really either.
Almost any of them, especially like infrared stuff.
Yeah, and I looked through. I remember after we did we do another outdoors one beside Mars? It didn't seem like it was Mars Hill. I guess not. But after I was looking through those pictures, even I could make myself. I would have to put it on live photo to see what the hell I was actually looking at. So pareidolia explains a lot of shit that we, probably 90%.
I was
going to
say about a good 90%.
Yeah, I mean it's a bunch, especially with photos. It's higher. I mean we received tons of photos. I'd say 90% of the photos we get are pareidolia, and I would say 8% of the others are fake,
like maliciously created.
Oh yeah, with an app.
I'd say there's about 2% is about the right thing where I'm like, oh, okay, maybe
2%'s about the sweet spot.
And I think those 2% all come from here.
From here, meaning Pythian.
We've had a few over the years pictures sent to us.
Oh, the ones from Pythian blow my mind.
That have intrigued me.
Are you talking about the video we took
just the
live
pictures.
photo that we took in the basement?
Even just the pictures that some of the tour people catch here, because
Oh,
they're not
yeah.
going to have time to.
There's one picture that was taken. I think it was by another investigation group.
The mummy. The mummy picture.
It was the black 3D blob.
Yeah, the blob one.
Oh yeah.
That was like standing right behind the woman.
Yeah, it looks like a void.
Well, and we've also some of the shadow ones that have been caught here. I thought were pretty good too.
Well, our shadow one was pretty fucking phenomenal that we caught down in the tunnel.
Yes, but I was talking about the one that was by the door that another paranormal group caught here.
Yeah. Well, and they send us most of these. I don't even send to you. A lot of times I'll get a picture and I'll send it to Tamara and I'll circle it and say what's in this area, and she'll say like there was one that I just got. It's going to take me a minute to pull it up, but there was one I just got where they circled it and they said, what is this? We think this is paranormal. I can find it here if you give me just a second. And I sent it to Tamara. And she said that's one of the large door hinges at the top. There's a large door hinge because it looked like something was peeking around the top corner of the door. And I sent it to Tamara and zoomed in. I sent it to Tamara and Melissa and zoomed in on it and kind of circled it. I was like, what is in this area? I didn't say, is this paranormal? Is this a ghost? Is something peeking around? I just said, what is this in this area? And Tamara, she replied back in 2 seconds. That's the door hinge. And once she says that, you look at it and think, oh yeah, that's all I can see now is a door hinge. So a lot of people who do their tours here at Pythian Castle send us the pictures too. So a lot of them are stuff like that. But some of them, man, there's a few diamonds in there that are just phenomenal.
Yeah, the blob and the mummy picture.
And when you say mummy, you're talking about the one where they're all gathered together in the stage area?
It was up in the stage area, yeah.
Yeah, that one's just crazy. Yeah, it did look like a mummy. That one's just insane because you see what looks like and it's not done with an app.
It looks like a decomposed human being.
I put it in Photoshop and there's no layering at all. I mean, the pixels line up one for one. It looks like a movie mummy,
but not like scary, like it was made by J.J. Abrams.
And we're not talking about tissue, toilet paper hanging off an arms in front. We're just talking about like a decomposed looking figure. And it was as far as scale goes, it was a little bigger than the people in the room.
A good descriptor. It's subtly creepy.
Yeah, it was an excellent picture.
I would pick up with this discussion here next week.
Yeah,
when we launch into the kind of the best of the castle and everything else.
That's a good idea because next week's episode 100 from here at Pythian Castle. So we've got some EVPs we're going to play, and we can talk a little bit more about some of that stuff. It's hard to talk about pictures on a podcast, but we can.
You could mention them.
Well, I was going to say we can bring them up and then I can post them on the website, kind of like I did with the what did I do? Oh, I did the skilled nursing home.
I just heard a breath there a second.
It was probably me.
Oh, stop breathing.
We'll pick up from there next week. We'll talk about some of the stuff we've captured here at Pythian Castle for episode 100.
More Dark Matter next week from Pythian Castle in Springfield, Missouri with Midwest Ghost Hunters.